And I just called the drug dealer. He's showing up, and I'm just sitting there like drinking. And I'm like, man, like everything that I've built, I'm going to lose.
Hello, friends. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Mayn Idea Podcast, where today I get to sit down with my good friend, Dominic Serna. A quick reminder to those that enjoy this podcast, please take 30 seconds and leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify and subscribe to the YouTube. This helps the show get discovered organically and helps me continue to bring on amazing guests. Also, as usual, there are timestamps in the show notes, so feel free to jump around to the part that interests you most, although I always recommend listening to the episode in its entirety. Dominic Serna, better known by his moniker Dom Dom, is a hairdresser and studio owner in Los Angeles. Dom was born and raised in Malibu, California, where he lived a youth as a self-proclaimed menace until finding his true creative calling. Dom's story of overcoming alcohol and drug addiction is both harrowing and inspirational. He is living proof that anyone can stand up to the pitfalls of addiction and the chaos that reigns upon their life, finding their footing and excelling in anything that they put their mind to. I hope that you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Without further ado, Dominic Serna.
Love it. So professional.
Dude, I am so excited to chat with you. You hit me with the most professional moment, and then I stumble on my words. But it's been such a long time coming to get you on this. You and I have a unique history as homies, but then also as a client-trainer relationship. And you've always just been someone that, like, I just appreciate your ability to truly walk to the beat of your own drum. And I think it's something that a lot of people strive to do, but very few people actually accomplish it so well. And I thought that might be just a fun place to start, is like, how did you develop that barometer for sensing that you're actually doing what you want to do and you're being the version of yourself that you want to without getting hit by all this exterior chatter that I'm sure you're exposed to?
I mean, definitely a lot of failing, trial and error with a lot of stuff. You know, I think growing up, I was such a menace. You know, I just think that, like, I've always been that guy that kind of like goes after what I love to do rather than, you know, it's weird saying it like that. Like, I always gone after what I've wanted to do. But I was raised to like kind of do what I wanted. You know, my parents were always working as a kid, and they were all over the place, you know, so I was able to like kind of be independent and do what I wanted, kind of go where I wanted. You know, I was able to like, you know, run the streets. And back in the day, you could just kind of run the streets and not have that, like, you know, like, oh, you need to be at home. And, you know, and now it's different nowadays and how kids are nowadays. And I think that like I got such freedom and independence when I was a young age. And I was left alone a lot when I was a kid. So it was like, and, you know, not some pity story, but like my parents were working.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I was able to kind of, like I said, go after what I wanted when I was younger, you know, and I just kind of did what I liked, what I wanted, what I was into. And I wasn't forced into things. And it's funny, later on in life, talking to my mom was like, you know, I knew you weren't for school. You know, and I was like, wow, like really? Like, that's so crazy, you know, because I was average student and I got by, you know, but like I was never like straight A student ever. You know what I'm saying? And I was definitely.
Did you reject school? Like, did you have like put a bad taste in your mouth kind of thing, or?
No, I just honestly, I just couldn't focus. You know what I'm saying? I was always the kid by the teacher. I was always the kid who got in trouble in the principal's office. I was early on at like 7th, 8th grade, I was, you know, they were like the counselors were telling my parents that I needed to go to counsel, like go to a therapist. They were like, something's wrong.
Why? Know? Because of like attention levels, lack of interest.
All the above. You know what I'm saying? Like I just did not like school. I just didn't like it. I liked the friendship aspect of my friends and like playing around and stuff like that, but I just couldn't get into it. And you know, like I said, I was like a free soul. Like I just kind of freebird basically is like what I would call it, you know, and I just had fun and that didn't really matter to me. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really think that was it.
when you were growing up with that freedom, like I remember when I was a kid, I had a ton of freedom, but there were like 4, 5 things that my parents were like, do not cross this line. You know, like if you go out on the weekend, we want to know where you are. We don't need to come pick you up. You can be out late. You can do whatever you want. But if you're going somewhere, call us. If one of your friends drinks, don't get in the fucking car. You know, like there were these little things that I was aware of as a kid, being like, all right, I can basically do whatever I want. This is amazing. And I'm developing this sense of independence. I'm developing that understanding of like how you make decisions in tough situations, and developing your instinct and your intuition and things that I think are super valuable as a kid when you're growing up.
Yeah.
But there were a few things I remember distinctly. We moved in this house one time, and my room was at like ground level, very easy to sneak out of type of room. And when we walked into the house, like the very first time, my dad looked at it and he goes, "It's a nice little window you got down there." And I hadn't even like looked at it like he has. And I was like, "Yeah, it'll be cool. I'm excited to be down there." And he's like, cool. Well, if you ever sneak out, I'll bend your middle finger back till it touches your wrist. And I was like, word. So never going to sneak out. Like, you know, there are little things like that where it was just, don't cross this line, have some respect. When you think back to that, was there any like, was it a give and a take kind of thing? That freedom?
No, I mean, I think, I mean, there was rules, don't get me wrong. Like I definitely was raised on like some kind of rule, but I broke the rules a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like there was no, I don't know. It was like such a like menace, you know. I remember like, I got grounded one time for so long. I remember because I was failing in 4th grade. Like I was just like I just wasn't doing anything. And I remember I had like pretty much I was just, and like I said, I was by the teacher, and I had found this little, you know, like in races, they have those cap guns that go off.
Yeah. Yeah. Where you put the orange ring in.
Yeah.
Probably don't sell those anymore.
No, I found one of those, like the little bullets.
Yeah.
And I was in class and I was messing around and it blew up, and my hands were blistered, and it was like, I'm not kidding you. I was like not even a foot away from my teacher, and it, you know, all of our ears were ringing. My one ear is still messed up from that. Yeah. I still hear ringing every once in a while. But anyways, like my parents, I got suspended. I somehow got out of it. Like they didn't tell my parents, and so I faked like I was sick, you know, so I didn't have to go to school. And like maybe 2 weeks later, I was at school, and you know, my dad gave me a note, and you know, it was my teacher gave me a note to give to my dad, and I didn't give it to him. And my dad picked me up, and he was like, "Did you get a note from your teacher?" And I was like, no, I didn't. He's like, all right. You know, and then like little by little, he started catching me with things. And then I saw them coming out of the teachers, out of my classroom. And I was like, oh my God, they found out everything. I was burnt, you know, like you were exposed. They told everything. I was exposed with everything. And that was like, I just remember like, that was just like the start of it, you know, just like, I just don't care about school, and I just don't care about this at all. This isn't where, I don't know. My mind was more like, I was in a creative space of just like, I wanted to do what I want. I wanted to have fun with my friends. I like sports and stuff like that, but like, I just didn't know what to do. You know, I didn't know what it was as a kid that made me tick, and I just wanted to have fun. And, you know, later on in life, I think that's what I just kind of always went after, you know, stuff that like I enjoyed, rather than, I worked at jobs that were, you know, easy because it was just like, it made me money, and I was able to like, you know, do drugs and drink and get by and pay the bills somewhat, you know, and I could call in sick, or if I quit, it was not a big deal, you know. And, you know, I wanted that career. I wanted to always be that guy who was like with a suit and a tie, you know, drinking.
You like idolized it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the scotch, you know, neat with, you know, and I was like, man, that's what I want. You know, I would love to be that guy, but it was never that. Never that, you know. I was always a mess, and I was always just, like I said, I was always partying and having fun. And, you know, later on, it helped me later on though, you know.
Yeah. I mean, when you're at that point, and you're in, we'll call it grade school, but like, I guess I'm more looking at even a step back from that, just generally like through your adolescence. I know from hanging out with you a lot that like you didn't have like dreams and aspirations of going into hairdressing and then one day owning a studio. And I even know that, and we'll get into this later, like the studio is kind of I don't know if someone could have paid you $1 million to open up a studio 5 years ago, right? So when you're younger and you're going through this stage and like you're finding out more about yourself, what are you thinking like Dominic's gonna do with his life?
Like now or then?
If you think like if you can put yourself in the mindset of you at that time, you're younger, you're like you said, you have these jobs that are kind of like whatever, you don't really care about them, but they're putting money on the table, and it buys you time to go have fun with your friends, party, do whatever you want. But it's not really a career, right? Like you're well in advance of that career moment. So what was in your brain of your aspirations for like who you wanted to become?
I honestly didn't really have any, to be honest, to be like a becoming someone, or remember, like I said, the suit guy was kind of it, but it wasn't that, I honestly didn't think I was going to live past a certain age. Like
That's
I didn't
so
think I was
heavy. Like you actually that was like your day-to-day thought. Is kind of like, I don't know, could
not
whenever.
not day to day, but more your thought of like, like live life in the moment kind of deal.
Yeah.
Like go with it as it comes, and whatever happens, you handle it then. And like I said, it wasn't living the lifestyle I did of drinking and using all the time. There was no goals. You know what I'm saying? The goal was to like drink and use again the next day. That was the goal. You know what I'm saying? And I would try things. I got into clothing at a young age too, in my early 20s, and I thought that was it. I was like, man, I really love the fashion industry. I worked for stylists. I worked, I was a buyer for a men's clothing store. And every time I started doing something, something would get in the way with drinking and using. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it would just become this, like, I couldn't really do much with it. You know what I'm saying? Because I could never show up on time for work or even show up for work. Sometimes I'd be partying all night, and it'd be 2 days later, and it'd be like, how did that happen? Yeah. 3 days later, sometimes. I mean, it got worse and worse as I got older, but like I said, I didn't travel much not because I wanted to travel, but like I didn't have money, nor drinking and using would always end me up in either like I'm in jail, overnighter. I would end up hungover, so sick that I was like, I couldn't even function, or I'd still be going, you know what I'm saying? Or like, it was just madness, like I said, all the time. So I didn't really have that, like those dreams and aspirations. I was just trying to like live day by day to like, cause like I said, I didn't know if I was going to make it or not through a certain age of like 30.
So if we unpack this, cause it's a heavy subject, but a one with a lot of ways to go here. If you think back to the beginning of when, well, I guess well before addiction felt like addiction, but how did you go from what I would imagine is we're all young, right? You're in your teens, your friend's brother's got a 40 of Mickey's, or you're just like exposed to drugs and alcohol in some capacity because you're young and you haven't been alive that long. And so you come in contact with it. And then everybody's story is a little bit different about how they did or didn't engage, or how serious it got, or who that crowd of people around them became. So if you go back, like what was kind of that introductory, the gateway, if you will, I hate to even say that, but that starting point with drugs, alcohol, using?
I think, man, I mean, I can remember at a young age having anxiety, like I remember at like very, very young age, like just having like tons of anxiety and tons of fear of life, right? Of like, of not making it. It was weird. Like I just remember this as a kid, and I never really, I wouldn't say I was uncomfortable as a kid. I was pretty comfortable in my own skin. I was pretty confident. But it was like when I got to, a certain age, I think it was like 7th grade, and I started smoking weed, and I was like, man, I loved smoking weed. Like it was just great, and drinking really wasn't my thing at first, I kind of built up to that, and because I just didn't like the taste of alcohol, and it just, I just didn't like it. But once I started going to parties and I started seeing that like people, you know, it was like a thing to do, and you became like, I remember this older guy who was a senior, and I remember like I was pretty much blacked out, but I remember little things, and I remember seeing him there, and it was like this party, and it was like you know, like that's what you did when you were younger. There was no like, wow, he drank, got out of control, maybe he has a problem. It was like you drank, you got out of control, you blacked out. It was like the next day you were, damn, that was crazy last night, huh? That was so fun, you know. And that's kind of like where it started, like of that, you know. And it wasn't until like a little bit later, you know, because I started enjoying drinking and I started having fun, and it became like a daily thing at an early age of, I think like 10th grade, I was drinking every day, you know. And yeah, you know, I would ditch school and just go drink a 40, and you know, it would just be, that would be it, you know. And it was great. And it got to a point of like, too, it was like I could be myself. I could be comfortable. I could talk to girls. You know, I could do anything. It was like I was invincible when I drank. You know, nothing.
Was it taking that anxiety like out of the picture? So like,
yeah,
you walk into high school sober, whatever, 9th grade. It's a lot of like angst and fear around social situations, interaction, and then the drinking. Obviously, it takes away the inhibitions, right? So you just kind of off the cuff. And then so you became more connected to that version of you at the time.
Yeah, because it just, like I said, it took everything away. Yeah. You know, like I remember just having the can in my hand, and I could just be like, wow, I just feel like I'll go away. You know, no fear, no anxiety, everything in life was okay. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like, wow, like I feel great, and I could do anything with it, you know. But like I said, it caused so much damage, you know, throughout, you know. But I just didn't realize it because that was what we did, you know, as kids. Like that's what I did. That's what you knew, you know.
What was the first insight of damage? The first time that you're like, huh?
That was I think like one of the big ones was, it wasn't a big one, but it was a big one. But it was just more of just like, I remember, so I used to drink and drive a lot with my buddy's car before I had a license, and I was always borrowing his car, and you know, I would drive him home, and then I would drive across Malibu to get back to my house because I lived up in this canyon that nobody ever wanted to drive me home. So I remember just being like, man, once I get my license, I'm gonna stop drinking and driving. Because nothing ever happened. Nothing ever happened. I never got in trouble. I never got pulled over. Everything was always cool. And it was like 2 weeks into getting my license, and I was in Big Bear, and I was, you know, like I said, I wasn't really drinking that much at this time. I was just kind of like, oh, I'm just smoking weed. And for some reason I started drinking that night, and I went to go get food with some friends, and my other buddy was behind me, and I just started speeding through the canyon in Big Bear. And I ended up losing control and flying off the mountain. Dude. And crashed. It was crazy because there was 2 massive tree trunks. And I literally like shot off the side, hit the mountain, and stopped right at the 2 tree trunks. Like I would have been destroyed.
Oh, you would have been throttled.
Yeah.
Throttled.
Just beer cans all over my car. I mean, alcohol spilled everywhere, food everywhere. My friend was in the passenger seat, and that was just like this. That was just like one of the things that happened like that. And I remember getting out of the car, I was completely fine. You know, they were like, my buddy was laughing about it, and I was just like, man, this is so bad. My car, I just got my license 2 weeks ago. Oh. You know, and I told myself I was not gonna drink and drive anymore. This lady pulled up, or it was either a lady or a guy, I don't remember, it was so long ago, but this guy pulled up and was like, we're calling the cops. And I was like, no. I was like, why are we calling the cops? He's like,
no, you're not.
No, you're not. And he goes, no, we're calling the cops. You clearly are drunk. And I'm like, no, I'm actually great. Like, I'm good. And he's like, no, we're calling a tow truck. We're going to get my car towed. He's like, no, we're calling the cops. So I sat there. I was like, all right, I'm just going to get in trouble for this. I'm going to need a DUI, you know? And so he called, and they were like, we cannot find where you guys are at. And I was like, and he literally came up to me. He goes, you're so lucky. They can't figure out where we're at. He's like, get that tow truck here and get your car towed and stop doing this, you know? And I got out of it.
But even that, not a wake up call, right? A wake up call,
No.
but not enough for you to like pull the plug, right? On
No,
partying
there
and
was
stuff like that.
no, there was no.
Why do you think that is? I've talked to my dad a lot about this. There were, I've spoken about his sobriety on the show before, but like there were a lot of times where I felt like I was throwing the kitchen sink at him from like a
Yeah.
"Hey, we love you" angle of like, dude, stop. And it's on deaf ears, right? It's just like when it comes down to it, his decision to stop drinking 11 years ago was his decision alone. And that's really what it came down to. He woke up one day and whatever the factors were in his life were strong enough to pull him in a direction where he cold turkey was done. And that's 11 years ago. But there were ample opportunities and reasons and emotions and love and care from family and friends. So like an abundance of that, dude, leading up to not enough. Just and there were things like that, right? There were hard lines in the sand of moments where it's like, dude, that should be enough, right? That should be enough. Now being on the other side of it, why do you think something so impactful can happen and just not ring that bell?
That I don't know. Honestly, I think about that sometimes. I'm like, man, it's so crazy. Like some of the stuff I've done or some of the stuff I've been involved in, I'm like, how did I not just stop? You know, like I don't, my parents, I mean, I've like ruined, I like almost ruined my cousin's wedding, like because of it. I mean, there's so many stories I can tell. I have so many stories of like what went down, but I just think for me, it was, I would get sober, right? Because sometimes I would get sober for people. All right,
I got you. I mean, I love you. Thank you for sticking your neck out. I'm gonna do this for you.
Or for me, it was like getting people off my back. Things were just getting so hectic that I was like, all right, I'll go to rehab. I'll go to treatment, and then I'd go, and then I'd get back, and I'd stayed sober for a year, but like I wasn't, doing anything. Like I wasn't, I didn't really understand alcoholism at all. I didn't understand it at all. I tried going to AA meetings. I didn't understand that. It was too weird for me. And I just, I'd go back out, and then you'd get your friends or my dad even said something one time. He's like, man, you stayed sober for a year. That was a long time. I figured you didn't have a problem, and it was like, okay, cool. Like validated.
Yeah. Right.
And then it was just like out. And then it would be 8 months later, I'd be getting sober again. It'd be like, oh my God, I'm in treatment again. How is this happening again?
Yeah.
Why am I back in sober living again? And it was just like, it just got worse and worse every time. And it just could not stop. And this last time I got sober, because I have almost like 6.5 years, a little bit over 6.5 years,
wow.
I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I honestly, I built my career. I built this life that I saw, or that I had, that it was amazing, right? And I remember, I'll tell you the story of like how it happened. But like I went out on surgery. I had a hernia, and I started doing it was my second hernia. The doctor at the first time gave me Vicodin. I didn't like him. I asked him the next time, hey, you think you could give me Percocet this time or something different? So he gave me Percocet, and I didn't. I started taking them, and I just instantly was like I could breathe normally. Wow. Like it was like instant. Like I was really miserable, and I was sober for like almost 4 years.
At that time, you had already like been sober from drugs as well prior to this
I was sober.
Surgery,
I was
right?
sober 4 years at this time.
Wow.
Yeah. So I started taking those, and I'm just like, I read the sheet. I'm taking them as prescribed, one every 4 hours. I'm counting the minutes. Like, okay, we got another 2.5 hours.
Did they know you were at risk from addiction when they do that? I always wondered that. Like, did doctors ask you? You did.
I told the guy.
So they know what they're doing.
The first time I told him. The second time I didn't say anything, but he remembered because like in the story I tried to get more. And I was like, when I was done, I was, like I said, I was taking them every hour. I read some piece of paper that he gave me and said, if you're in excruciating pain, take it every 2 hours. I'm still sober in my head, right? Like
while
sober.
You're taking them.
Yeah. I'm just saying I'm sober still.
Right.
I'm taking them as prescribed.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, oh, I can take 2 every 4 hours. Oh, perfect. Every 2. Now I'm taking 2 every 4 hours, And it just became this ongoing thing. I ran out. I called the doc. He's like, nope, no, you don't need any more. And I'm like, why? He's like, dude, no, man. Like, you don't need that. This isn't a path that you're going to go down, you know, you want to go down. I was like, whatever. I hung up with that dude.
Now you're in like the zone though, to find them. Yeah.
Now I'm in. I'm calling shady friends. I'm, you know, some of my friends are like, you know, it's so funny with one of the shady friends that I had was like, man, why are you doing this? Like, you have this, you have built this life that is so amazing, and I don't want to see you tear it down, you know, and it's what's going to happen, you know? And I was like, wow. And I didn't really care. I was like, whatever, dude. He's, you know, and so I got off the phone with that person, next person. And then I started smoking weed. Then I'm drinking. And then it's like, and then I'm up for 3-4 days. I'm like, how is this happening? Like, I don't get it, you know? And I'm sitting on my couch after like a 2-day bender. And I just called the drug dealer. He's showing up, and I'm just sitting there like drinking. And I'm like, man, like everything that I've built, I'm going to lose, you know?
Yeah. Like you had that clarity in the moment to actually even think that.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I was just like, man, I'm going to lose everything, you know? And I'm going to be back in treatment. Like, I'm just going to start all over again. It's just like, man, why would I want to do that? You know? So I was like, fuck, I gotta stop. You know, and now I have a mound of cocaine, and I have enough alcohol. Like, I literally had stocked up like 2 days before. My fridge and my cabinets are filled.
Yeah.
And I had pills, and I was like, all right, well, and I called a buddy of mine. I'm like, all right, I need to get sober. He's like, all right, cool. Well, when? And I'm like, well, not today.
Right now.
No, I was like, not today. But like in a couple of days, because I have all this, I gotta finish all this. And I lasted for another day, and I went back to my house, and I was out all night, and you know, I don't know what was going on. Like my chest was hurting so bad from all the coke I was doing. I don't know if there was like a problem or what, but I was like, I gotta go. Gotta go home. And I went home, and I called a buddy of mine, and I was like at 6 a.m, and he basically was like, all right, I'll meet you at a meeting at 6:30. Forgot where it was at. It was on Pico in Santa Monica, or in West LA. And I met him, and dude, it was weird. It was like the scariest moment for me. I don't know why. Like, I don't know why getting sober is so scary. It's literally the scariest thing ever. For some reason, I turn into the biggest baby, and I can't deal with life.
That's so ironic, because you're actually, in reality, the characteristics that you're portraying in that moment are the polar opposite. They're courageous. It's brave. You're vulnerable, because you're looking yourself in the mirror straight up going, this is where I'm at. This is really where I'm at. I'm here right now. And all those, the cowardice, the baby, is the dude doing mountains of coke with a bunch of booze trapped in his house, who can't like be like, yo, this is who I am. You know, that's the baby. But that's, I think, where a lot of people struggle, is that makes them feel powerful, like they're in control. They call the shots. And then it's looking at yourself face to face and making that choice that takes a lot. And it's a lot that people don't have ever. Never have. Never will have, unfortunately, you know?
Yeah. Some people never make it. That's what's so crazy about it. I mean,
so sad.
It's the saddest thing ever, because being in AA and watching. I mean, I had a friend die a couple years ago. That was hectic, and I watched the being sober and just the downhill slope and died, and it was just like so sad to watch. And that's the reality of it. You know what I'm saying? Is some people make it and some people don't, and that's the hardest part about it. Is you never know what's going to happen if you go back out. And that's,
you had told me this one time. You were like, look, man, if you say like you don't want to drink for the month of January, and you break down and you have a beer, you had a beer. When I was getting sober, this is me paraphrasing you. Like, you're like, when I was getting sober, I'd be like, yeah, I can have a beer. And then I would wake up 2 days later with people I don't know in a house I don't live, wondering what the fuck just happened. And that difference is like stark, right? That's a game-changing difference between those two situations.
Yeah. And now it's like even crazier because, the fentanyl, and all that stuff. I mean, I used to just, I think a lot of the reason why I used to like not care so much either was because I would do so much, I would do so many, like so much coke and drink so much. And I would, and nothing ever happened. Like I'd be tweaked for a couple of days or a week or 2 weeks, but I never, you don't die. I didn't know tweakers that really died. Heroin addicts were the ones that died.
Right.
And I was always like, no, I'm just like I'm just a tweaker. Like that's just what I do, and it's not a big deal. Now people are casually doing coke that never really do coke or do
right.
drugs,
You're just saying socially,
quick.
like the way that drugs are perceived now versus the past it was kind of like seedy and.
No. I'm saying like fentanyl, right? So fentanyl now is like a killer.
Oh.
So say like
based on tolerance.
Yeah. So say you go out, right? Like you're just like, man, like, you're with your friends and one of your buddies is like, hey, I just want to get some coke tonight. And you're like, yeah, let's do it. All right, let's do one.
So you get people that don't typically do drugs going,
and
sure, and then they die.
They're dying.
Yeah, I mean, it's not worth it, man.
No,
it's not worth it.
It's not. I mean, I think that was the biggest thing that I noticed was like, man, it's not worth it to me anymore. You know what I'm saying? Everything in life that comes my way, I can deal with sober. You know what I'm saying? Like I can go through sober. I'm going to be okay. Like whether it's a death, whether it's losing a job, whether it's like, breaking up with the girl. Yeah, you go through the pain and you go through the heartache of it. You go through whatever it is that you got to go through to get through it. And it's a life lesson. It's a learning lesson instead of running away from it.
Yeah.
Because everything we do is a learning lesson, I think, in life. And I think that like everything, people always want to succeed. They're not willing to fail. Right. And to me, like failing is part of the success. Right. So it's like people to me, like, that when I do education, doing hair, people are scared to do certain haircuts. They're scared to mess up the haircut. They don't want to mess it up. But like, to me, messing it up is the way you learn. Right. Like, and I mean, don't get me wrong. There's other aspects of learning it too, as well, but there is no perfection in life. There is no perfection in the journey. You know what I'm saying? I think it's like the ups and downs. I wouldn't be where I'm at if I wouldn't have fucked up so much.
For sure. It makes you who you are. It makes you stand on your own feet and have, I mean, like everything about who you are, we can't, right? None of us can change that stuff. Right?
No.
Like what happened in the past. We are who we are because of the way we are. We're at the spot in our journey because of all the things that have happened. And man, I couldn't agree with you more on the success thing. Like, and I include myself in this, right? Like you want it to happen so fast. But the reality is that all the good stuff, all the stylistic developments, all your understanding and your perceptions about how things should or shouldn't be done, those are developed in the process of doing. Not by jumping ahead to the finish line and then just being done. And like, there's nothing in that. There's no shelf life. And if you're not enjoying that part in the middle, when you're not a big deal, when you're not landing deals, when you don't have a ton of exposure, then you're missing the entire essence of like what creativity and art is the part in the middle with a creation, right? Yeah.
The middle is the adventure part. That's the best part. The start is always just like, I'm excited, cool, but the middle part of it is always, to me, I mean, now I think about it because, like, you get these people now that, like, I get people that want to work for me or that I've interviewed and stuff like that. And it's always like that question of like, how much money am I going to make? When am I going to start?
Screw that.
And like, when am I going to start cutting hair? That's the question. It's like, it's really up to you. But like, I think, people want to, instead of starting in the mailroom, they want to already run the Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
Like I came in here to be the president, not the mail person.
And what the irony is, like, it's not even like you have to start in the mailroom to become an agent. You could start planting flowers outside the building. Like there's so many different entry points into success within any given career, but the common denominator in my eyes is the effort part of it. You have to just constantly be willing to put forth effort in whatever you're doing and mess up all the time. Put out bad episodes, put out bad content, make a bad haircut, open up something that doesn't work out, do a bad partnership. But if each one of those things that happens stops you in your tracks and makes you go, never mind, this is stupid. This will never work out for me. I'll never make this happen. They have it so easy because they have everything coming their way. That's BS.
Yeah.
You have to take those in stride.
That's most of it. That's most of people's thing is the fear of failure. You know, I think that like the best thing you can do is fail sometimes because it's like you learn so much more from it of like not, you know, it's like people who don't even try, right? No way. You've already failed, right? Yeah. That's already automatic fail. But if you try, there's a 50-50 chance you could do it.
So you actually have an interesting journey in that your career was like growing and you were getting sober at the same time.
Yeah.
Usually it's the other way. Usually people like, I quit drugs and then everything great happened in my life, right? Or like I left alcohol behind and then my career took off.
Yeah.
But how did you navigate those two things simultaneously? Because it's not like you're cutting hair at Super Clips in like, you know, you're like the best salon in the celebrity hub of the country.
Yeah. I think that like I got lucky, to be honest, with where I was at and like what I was doing. Like when I was in beauty school, I was already sober. You know, I figured out that the career that I wanted to do was cutting hair. And once I figured that out, I went for it, right? I was in beauty school and, you know, I was miserable inside. It didn't matter how good my life was. You know, it didn't matter that I had the girlfriend or I had the car or going after my career or whatever. Like I ended up drinking and I had to take a month off of school and I had to get sober again. And I got sober and it took off again. I just went, when I get sober, it's like I go full throttle.
Yeah.
You know,
you have all the energy too.
Yeah, there's no stopping me. Like I said, remember I told you, like I couldn't travel. I couldn't show up. Most of the time people be like, don't you have to go to work today? And I'm like, work? Who works? Like, it did. Like I said, it was just another thing that, like, when I was younger, that I could just be like, I'll just get another job.
Right.
And then when I had that surgery, that could have gone bad. That could have been the end of it.
Right.
It could have been the end of my career because, you know, my manager was trying to get me to come into work. And I don't know if he didn't believe me that I was drinking and using the way I was, but he kept saying, like, just come into work, man. It's a safe place. And I think that he like wanted me to come into work just to see how bad it was, you know,
bad.
Or I don't know. There was something that he wanted. And I'm like, there's no way I'm coming to work because I'll be hiding in the bathroom, you know? And I just asked, I was like, hey, I just need a couple of days off to get sober. And he's like, all right, you know, and I took 2 or 3 days to like kind of detox off of what I was doing. And you know, my buddy asked me to go to a meeting and I said, okay. And I was willing. There was like the little window that I had to get sober. You know what I'm saying? And for some reason I fit right through and I did it because I was willing to do it. Because I knew my life I wasn't going to make it. Like I was going to go down the shithole again. I was going to die or I was going to be miserable doing what I was doing.
Did AA connect with you? Is that like a smooth process? I know there's quite a bit of like mixed reviews on how successful that is or if people are receptive to that. What was your experience or is your experience with it?
I mean, it's been the best thing I've ever done. I'll tell you that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that like, there's always going to be controversy over if it works or if it doesn't. But most of the people that are saying it doesn't work are the people that don't ever do the work, you know, that are like, it doesn't work. But like, did you actually do the work or did you just, you know, get caught up and you left, you know? And I think for me, it's proven. I've seen some of the craziest people come in those rooms, including myself. And they got sober.
Study of one. Yeah.
And they got sober and they lived these amazing lives. And it's like due to that program, you know, and it's amazing. You know what I'm saying? And
Are you religious?
Not at all. No.
Like I mean, neither am I. I've joked about the irony of like how religious I am about like exercise and jujitsu.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
story. But I always wonder. I find it interesting when people are sober by their own regard. I mean, my dad would fall into this category. He's not a religious guy, but he's sober, and I've heard many people in that boat say that there's something about like AA, or maybe it's having like a sponsor. It's like putting the whole problem into something like bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And and the reason I bring up religion is because a lot of times people will be like, oh, I never could have gotten sober if it wasn't for my relationship with Jesus Christ or something like that.
Yeah.
And so they're just like kind of alley-oop in Jesus the sobriety and be like, help me handle this, and it's so psychologically it's this offloading of the responsibility and trying to feel like you have to do it all yourself. So do you feel like, or does AA provide any of that kind of like support for you?
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like, you're not alone. That's basically the deal, right? Like, 'cause when I isolate and I'm doing it myself, like I'm the driver.
Right.
I mean, we all saw what happened. We all just heard what happened. I'm flying off the side of the mountain on Big Bear when I'm the driver. But like when your higher power, whatever you want to call it, God, whatever you want to call it, you can call it whatever you want to call it. That's the driver, and you're in the passenger seat. It's a lot easier, right? For me, when I'm in the passenger seat, I'm not driving. I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to do anything like that. That's doing it for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that there's so many aspects to it, but it's people hear the God aspect of it, or they hear that it's a cult, stuff like that. I mean, you think what it want until you do it, you don't know. And honestly, like I said, it's saved my life, and it's changed my life in an amazing way. And I think that like everything I have is because of being sober and being in AA. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I don't know. I've tried every other way, and it didn't work. You know what I'm saying?
Have you had the opportunity to sponsor people inside? Like to sponsor other people in AA?
Yeah. And that's the thing, I think, with, that's the thing, is helping others.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is taking other people through the work, and not being, it's a selfish program, but it's not a selfish program, right? Like you take people through the work that you got taken through the work with. It's like sometimes like, fuck, I don't want to go take this guy's phone call,
Right.
And I got so much stuff going on.
Yeah.
I got a lot of stuff going on. I take that phone call and I'm like, man, it just makes me so grateful sometimes when you hear some of these guys' stories, especially when they're new, of like how hard it is to get back, how hard it is to even just get sober, like how hard it is to do the work, how hard it is. It's like, man, like I don't ever want to be in that. I don't want to be in that zone again of like getting sober again. It is so much harder to get sober than to stay sober.
I can only imagine that and I don't know what the psychological aspect of this is, but I've always found it fascinating, is that helping action, like you taking the guy's call.
Yeah.
There's definitely something that does to strengthen your sobriety on some intangible level. Like that guy takes a call and you're able to help him based on your experience and provide insight and ask the right questions and show love and support. And I would imagine on the tail end of one of those calls, like it's kind of like the proverbial, like, all right, Dom, you're helping other people out because of the choices that you've made here. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. I think like that in any aspect of life is being of service, you know what I'm saying? Of helping people out, you know what I'm saying? No matter what, and try, if you can, do it. You know what I'm saying? I think we become too busy for things. My life is so busy. Sorry, I can't do that.
Right.
Don't have time for you. Don't have time for this. It's the littlest things that you can do for people that will help. You know what I'm saying? And that they'll remember forever. I remember being in AA and in the rooms of AA, and this kid came up to me that I'd, he'd been around for a good amount of time, and he came up to me and he thanked me, and I said, for what? And he's like, I just want to say thank you for saying hello to me when I was new.
I try to think about those moments in life. I try to think about all the time. Like the smallest random thing that you think is so insignificant, it's so easy to just turn the shoulder or whatever. And it doesn't have to be, in Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, this could happen at the grocery store. It could happen at the gas pump. These moments are constant. They're always happening. And many times in life, you're hit back with one of them. Yeah. Or someone comes, you get a message from someone on social and they're like, hey, I saw you at blah, blah, blah. And it really had this thing. And you're like, what? Like where?
Yeah,
when?
Yeah.
It was nothing to you. It wasn't even a moment. It was just a time when you were just going through life and you maybe you said hi to someone or you talked to them, or maybe you're a dick to someone, right?
Yeah.
And years later or months later, you were brought aware to that. And it's just a reminder to like not put on a fake face, but just be a good person as much as you can, genuinely. If you have the opportunity to interact with someone, to treat them well, because you really don't know. You don't know.
Well, that's the thing. You don't. You're right.
You
don't.
You don't know when someone's going to walk into your salon and ask to get their haircut, and you're like, cool, how do you hear about us? And they're like, oh, I've been following you for 10 years and I finally moved to LA or whatever it is.
Yeah. I agree with you with that one. It's just one of those things I think that's like, like I said, it's just those moments that we have that that guy said, or, another guy just recently I ran into, and I thought he was like so cool for school. And he said to me the same thing, like, man, we used to do a commitment at this meeting and you were like the only guy that talked to me, and it was like, dude, that's so crazy to me though. Like, I was just like,
right.
Wow. Like, and he's like, dude, what's up? Like, man, it's been a long time, and it was like the fact that he remembered that, it trips me out. Like, just being that guy, like you said, it's just being a loving human being. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's hard sometimes. Don't get me wrong. I wake up and I'm on the wrong side of the fucking bed.
Same,
it's like a war going on in my head sometimes, and I think too is like kind of getting yourself right for the day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't just get up and go. Like, I have my like morning routine of like what I got to do. I wake up, I make my coffee, brush my teeth real quick. And then I do my morning routine of like, I pray and meditate for 20 minutes, and that just like, dude, just gets me right, because I just don't know what I'm going to experience that day and who I'm going to encounter.
What is, as a non-religious person, what is prayer to you?
Like I said, it's that higher power thing, of like trusting in somebody else will, is there beside me, basically. I'm not alone. You know what I'm saying? Because I used to always ask that question. I had such a hard time with the God thing. And I was like, kind of like, well, yeah, I believe, but I don't believe. I don't know. I'm in the middle. And they were like, and it's like, but I became into this like whole thing of like, I used to ask like, how did people do it when there wasn't cell phones? How did because think about it. Like, I think about it like, like, man, I'm alone and I'm freaking out and I want to drink and I can't talk to anybody. I'm alone. My phone, like the phones don't work. How did people do it? And my sponsor told me, he's like, basically, God, you had to trust in your higher power that you were going to be okay. And I remember just being like, man, that's so insane what he just said. Like, I need a distraction. You know what I'm saying? And that was the thing. And I had to learn to sit in it. Mm-hmm. And sit in feeling and sit in the madness, whether it's, I'm uncomfortable, I'm having anxiety. Like I said, I've suffered from anxiety my whole life. You know what I'm saying? And I think that like learning how to sit still in that and be okay with it and know that it's like, it's not real, or, it's going to pass, or just any of the feelings that I've ever had, in sobriety or whatever, like I've always gotten through them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? The fear of speaking in public speaking, dude, which is
hilarious because you do it all the time.
I hate speaking, even getting on this, I was like, ugh. But once I get past a certain point, I'm good. But it's that initial start, but it's like I said, it's, whole God thing, I don't really know. I just, I pray for other people, like I've a friend that's, he's out right now and he's drinking and he's using. I don't know what's going on with him. I pray for that guy. I just
Yeah.
want him, hopefully he gets better. I don't know why it works, but it does. You know what I'm saying?
I think that there's something in there. I'm always curious 'cause I'm kind of like I'm in the same boat. Like there's something I've always felt like a little bit of a draw towards. Maybe it's fear in of itself, right? Maybe I'm afraid of dying because the thought of
Mhm.
like literally being dead and then never for eternity ever existing again, forever, never being with my
Yeah.
family, my friends, my love. Like when I was a kid, I used to get anxiety too, but I would get anxiety about that. I would think it would be thinking about like the constant expansion of the universe into nothing and then just dying and it going on for like, I could go
Yeah.
on for this. It gave me a lot of, that's my only grip on anxiety of what that might feel like is
Yeah.
that sensation as a kid. And
Yeah.
maybe because of that, I want to believe in something bigger that's going to like, answer questions and take care of stuff afterwards.
Yeah.
But then I grapple probably with a lot of the things you do where it's like, there's also this gut kind of intuition, like, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense to me. Or there's a lot of easy ways to rule it out. When you get like really pragmatic with it and rational, you can dispel a lot of those feelings pretty quickly. So it's an interesting place to be, but I also feel that desire to pray for things, I've felt more in the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years than like ever in my life. And maybe it's because you're older, right? You start to see people die. You start to see
Mhm.
your family members and extended family members pass away. And it kind of like, it crowds your
Yeah.
world a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
bit. Like, whoa, dude, I want to be like 15 again. Hold on. When you
Yeah. Yeah.
can't. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you start to go, okay, like if I'm going to stand on my 2 feet, what kind of tools do I need in my belt? And so you just kind of, maybe it starts there. Yeah. Like, I just start, hoping that other people do well, that people that are trying to get through something difficult find success doing that. And it's
Yeah.
almost like a gratitude practice as part of the meditation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think like anything, it's just like I said, it's I don't really, the God thing is like I said, it's just one of those things you kind of figure out. For me, I figured out on my own kind of deal
Right.
of just like watching and like trying and practicing. I mean, like I said, it was just one of those things. I'd watch people come in that were sober or that were out of their minds, get sober, and for some reason they're back to living like a normal life and they're not insane anymore. And it was just kind of like one of those things where I was like, wow, something's working in here. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
what's working. And, little things like, it's like, you always hear these people like, I had this crazy God shot, and da da da. And I'm like,
Right.
I didn't have that white light experience when I got sober. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't. Like, it wasn't like that for me. It was more, I look at life too, like everything happens as the way it's supposed to happen. Like, shit, if I lose the job, I'm going to be okay.
Right.
If I lose the career, if I lose the girl, if I lose, everything happens the way it's supposed to happen, and I sit there and sometimes it's like we try to control things in our lives, and I'm just like, man, I just don't want to try to do that. You know what I'm saying? I just, intuition wise, gut feeling, I know when something isn't right and I can feel it,
On that note, I've actually been able to witness this firsthand in you, and with us when we were at Equinox, that the people that are around and the income levels that are around and the sharkiness of some people, like I've
Yeah.
actually physically witnessed while I'm training you, people come up and want to pitch you stuff on like, yo, you got to join this group, you got to get into this mastermind, you got to do this product.
Yeah.
Yo, I know someone who's doing a hair thing with Redken. They got to, like, you're their guy. And I've in real time watched you be like, nah, like just because straight up your intuitive voice is like, that's a dumb idea, dude. But it's because of that, right? It's at the end of the day, you don't care. If it goes away, you're fine. And that's, I think people want to be like that, but I think that they have a hard time actually sticking to that gun, looking opportunity in the face and being like, that doesn't fit with everything that I'm about. And I know it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you some of the companies I've turned down that were big companies that literally were, like, we want to work with you. And I was just like, absolutely not. Like, it's just not for me, and I don't like, I've chased money in my career. I've gone after so many different things in my career. And for me, that wasn't chasing money, doing the wrong thing for the wrong, trying to do it for the, like, oh, I'm just doing it for the money. I'm doing it for this, or I'm doing it for that. Like, it didn't make me happy. And at the end, I was miserable. You know what I'm saying? And I remember one year I literally was saying yes to everything. I was flying to Europe. I mean, all over the country. I'm literally working nonstop. It was crazy. And at the end of it, I remember at the end of the year, I was just like, man, I'm so miserable. I have more money than I've ever had in my life, making more money than I've ever made in my life, but I'm unhappy and I'm not stoked, and I had to like ground myself of like, I got to go back to the basics of like what I love, and that's what I did. And, and don't get me wrong, I've definitely chased money after that as well. It's just the up and down slope of, that's life, I'm not perfect. And, you get this sense of you make money and it's like, it's great. It feels good, but it doesn't do anything for me inside wise, like what am I doing for myself? What am I doing, to make myself happy? At the end of the day, it's just a bank account with a bunch of money in it. That's all it is. You know what I'm saying? It could go away tomorrow just like that, or I could go away tomorrow just like that. And at the end, was I happy? Nah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And so, because I grew up, like I said, my mom made money. My dad didn't really make money. My mom saves and, she's kind of in her own boat with money and does her own thing. And then my dad spends and does whatever he wants to do, like he's leaving tomorrow.
Right.
And it's pretty, so I got both worlds of that. So, like I said, I think that like, for me, it was like living that life of like, it could end tomorrow, but like, fuck, what if you end up being here for another 50 years? Who knows? You know what I'm saying?
Well, dude, I mean, that's a really a very grounded perspective. I feel like, and I don't know, I haven't heard you say that, and not that I've heard you on the other side being like, yeah, fucking money, I love it. But I also haven't, that's like a very, I don't know, you seem very at peace with like the way that you view that. When your career is kind of starting and gaining traction and the whole like the Instagram thing grows, how much of you is sucked into that, and how much of you is able to part from that and keep your head on straight?
I mean, I never go into the like ego part of it for some reason. I don't know why. Like, I've never really been like, I'm better than anybody with that, or like, oh wow, you have followers, you must be amazing. Like, or that world is so not real to me. You know what I'm saying? It's really not like you could have 1 million followers and still be a douchebag. You know what I'm saying? And like, does not mean you're fucking great. And
right.
I think that like, you could have 0 followers and be the most amazing person ever. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that like, we're human, and I think like for me, like when I got on social media, it wasn't about being famous or being an influencer or being somebody on there. It was just having fun, and that's literally what I used it for. It was like, oh wow, like, I got on the floor as a hair cutter and I started posting pictures because, back in the day we had a book that had a portfolio with haircuts and inspiration and some of your work on like maybe a Polaroid or a photo that you had. So you had this book, right? And then I used, somebody was like, man, you should use that as like a portfolio. That could be really cool. And I was like, wow, that's a good idea. So I learned kind of how to take a picture with my iPhone. I learned how to edit it to like the limit, like the least amount of edit where it would just look natural. And, like if somebody had a pimple, like you fucking, you got rid of it.
Right.
But nothing, like I said, it was very natural and organic, and I just had fun with it. It was great. I was having so much fun. It was like traction was crazy. People were, wow, I've seen your work. It looks amazing, and then there was the shit talk aspect too of like the trolling and the people being mean about it. I don't know. I grew up, like I said, I was a menace and I was a knucklehead. So like talking shit wasn't really like a thing for me of like, oh, you hurt my feelings. Like it was like, you know, I learned.
You just barked back. Yeah.
I knew how to like to shut it down, or I knew how to say something back to make you look like you're an idiot.
Dumb.
You know, like you're dumb for doing that. But
wait, was that part of why your account grew so much? Were you chirping at people in the thread a lot?
No. I mean, I honestly, in the beginning, I would respond to stupid shit like that, but most of the stuff that in the beginning, I didn't really respond to a lot of stuff. I didn't really respond to people's like questions and comments and stuff like that, because if I respond to one question, then it comes another question, and then it becomes a paragraph, and then it becomes like like an everyday thing. And next thing I know, I'm talking with 50 different people going with conversations. And if I don't respond to that person who just had that conversation with, I'm that guy.
Right.
So if I don't respond to any of it, then it's fine. You know, but I didn't look at it like, I just kind of was like, you know, if you just stay silent, you just post your work for them. That's what it's for. It's for fun and for more of like a portfolio thing. It wasn't to like chit chat and to have, you know, it was more like that. But it was really what I took off was, I heard somebody say in a panel, say like, if you really want to grow your following, show what you do. And so I was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. Like, you want me to video my stuff, put it on the web, and I mean, I was a phony. I was faking it till I made it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was the guy, like when I started working, and like, I remember working with a celebrity, and she would always, you know, be like, I want to do this. And I would look at it and I'd be like, I have no idea how to do that. Like, no idea. And I would literally tell her, I'm like, I just need to use the bathroom real quick. And I would hope that my phone worked and I could have that I had Wi-Fi and that I could get on YouTube and YouTube something really quick and go back out.
That's incredible. Straight up.
Sometime
at Chris McMillan?
No, this was like when I was doing. I ended up getting a job after assisting with this woman who was an artist, and she traveled and she did all kinds of stuff, and you know, she was super busy. And I worked with her 5 days a week on a show, and dude, like I said, it was nonstop. I didn't know how to do anything though. I didn't know how to like braid hair. I didn't know how to do updos. I didn't know how to do anything. I just knew how to blow dry hair somewhat.
But that's probably, honestly, that's like what's the best way to learn is just
doing
sink or swim, like get thrown to the wolves. Can you handle it? Can you not? Can you make mistakes and fall forward?
Yeah.
And you can, so you did.
Yeah. And that was kind of like how that worked. Like, you know, like when, and like I said, like I wasn't fearful. Like I was fearful, but I didn't show it. Like I didn't care either. At the end of the day, I just wanted to learn, and I loved what I did, so it made it all the better. You know what I'm saying? It was like I was getting better.
What was it about, like, this Menace kid who's partying all the time, living a wild life? How do you end up doing super high end women's haircuts?
It's weird. Like, it's that. I never wanted to do hair. It wasn't like a goal. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a thing, right? Like I was dating a girl who, it was just like a toxic relationship. It was a mess, right? And I was in retail and I hated it and I wanted to fucking kill myself. And weirdly enough, I went to a wedding. I met a hairdresser. Okay. My girlfriend at the time was in beauty school. And I came home one night and I was like, I think I want to do hair. Like maybe I would do hair. It was like kind of a joke. It was a joke, really. It wasn't really serious. And she's like, really? That's what you want to do? Like, oh, no way. Like, stop. Like, no. Like, because she was just starting out. So it was like basically stealing her thunder.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah. Like, don't tag onto my career.
Yeah. And people were like so stoked for her. And I was like, you know, like because she was doing something. We were kind of fucking degenerate. So it was like,
so you just slam dunked on her.
So basically I went to work the next day and I called the guy, the hairdresser, and I called him and I told him, and he was like, dude, if that's what you really want to do, come in on a Saturday and, you know, sit at the salon with me and see what would I do. So I did. I went out on a Saturday. I walked in. It was this cool salon. It was like a home, you know, like wood floors. The music was amazing. It was warm. You know, there was a fireplace. There was people all over the place that were cool. There was tattoos, people smoking. It was just like, oh, this is so cool.
It's like a tattoo shop.
Basically, but it was cooler though. It was nicer. You know what I'm saying? And then he came in, his clients started coming in, he started doing the work, and I just noticed like, man, the banter was so fun. He was like funny, and it was entertaining, and hairdressers across the way were talking, and it was like shit talking and having fun. The clients were having fun. It was just like so much entertainment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I saw what he did. I watched him I watched him cut hair, and I was like, oh my God, that's so fucking cool. Like, I loved it.
So
I just
wild.
instantly fell in love. I was like, this is it. You know, I was like, it's just everything aesthetically, the job, just the fun part of it, the banter, everything was so fun. And I left there going like, that's what I'm going to do, you know? And
that's crazy.
I called my buddy about it. He's your tattoo artist, Jason. And shout out Jason Stores. And I called him, and he goes, that's the best idea I've ever heard you say. And boom.
Well, he gets it. I mean, like, some parallels, right, in both of your guys' lives with him being like, I'll never own a tattoo shop. And then he like owns the dopest tattoo shop in LA. Yeah. And just like stylistically, it's a good vibe. It's talented artists. It's no BS. Everything's clean. It's rad. I mean, and then that similar kind of environment, right? The tattoo shop is kind of just being in a tattoo shop's fun when you're about to get tattooed, because it's the same thing. It's, artists are hyped on each other's art, and they're shouting back and forth, and you've got funny shit going on because it's a tattoo shop, and then, people are getting robbed outside or something. Like, there's always it's a fun place to be. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, I can say it's personal training. It's similar. It's another one of those, like, you're on your feet, you're interacting. It's client relations, but the gym's kind of a funny fishbowl to work in because there's total kooks running around all the time. And there's so much to, like, I don't know, like our sessions, they're so fun, right? Like 90% of your time's just spent like shit talking and being like, dude, like, look at what that person's doing. What on earth is that person doing? Are they in a relationship together? Like, what are they doing? You know, it's just fun. It's kind of like an enriching. It's not like you're at a cubicle just like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
it'd be horrible.
It'd be horrible. That was never that. I could never be that 9-to-5 guy. I've done it. I've had the suit and tie, and I was a mortgage loan guy, and I was miserable. I was in the bathroom drinking because it was so miserable.
Just a straight up lie.
Yeah, no joke.
Mortgages, dude.
I was a mortgage loan officer, and I tried it for a month. It was literally it was the hardest. It was the worst job I've ever had. I mean, I was drinking in the bathroom during, on breaks. I was at TGIF drinking as well. Like, it was just miserable. Yeah. But like, that was a thing. I once I figured that out, I didn't stop. I quit every job that I had. I quit the job that I had. I went in full fledged. Like, I knew that was it. You know what I'm saying? And I went after it. Like, I wanted it so bad, and I said yes to everything. I worked as much as I could. I went to beauty school. I assisted for 4 years. Like I said, I did not stop, and I didn't say no. Right. I went after it. And then, along the process, I learned like what I liked and what I didn't like. After a certain point, it's like anything. It's like, I don't want to do weddings. I find no joy in doing wedding hair at all. Right. I don't like doing kids' hair. It's just not fun to me. Have them go to the yellow balloon or the yellow bus or whatever that shop is. And I learned to be. It's funny because people ask like, man, how much is your price? And I'm like, because in the beginning, it's like I talk about it like when I do education or I teach a class. I'm always like, it's not about the money. It's never been about the money. For
you personally, or you mean like when people are asking you like, what should I charge? How should I like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, because I mean, there's a way. Like I said, I in the beginning, why did I get into this? I didn't get into it because of how much money I was making. I loved it. I loved it. I was broke as a joke. You couldn't get any broker than what I was. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And it's like, and I learned as I got more successful, and I learned with failing and succeeding, I learned how to become business smart. You know, how to charge more, how to, how to balance my schedule more where I can make more money in less time. How, traveling, doing education, teaching, contracts with companies. Now I have a brand coming out that I created, and that's been like another journey.
It's been a project for a while.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think like anything, it's like for me, I just get to a point, and it's been like this my whole career of like I get to a point, and I'm like, okay, I did that. Like, what's next? And it was like it's like you were saying, like I never wanted to own a salon. I never wanted to have a product line. I never wanted to do education and teach in front of people. Like I thought if I would have told you where I was going to be in the beginning, it would have been celebrity red carpet, like music videos, that kind of stuff. That's where I would have been, right? But like that's what you never know where your career is going to go ever. You never know. And
you're a creative, like you truly enjoy the process. So what happens is when you get something down pat and you figured it out and you can make money doing it, then you ask yourself, what else can I do?
mm-hmm.
And other things start to interest you. But to touch on, I feel like this horse is beat dead so much on the like, do what you love and you'll never work another day in your life. It almost to the point where people hear it and they don't really think about it. But it's really hard to know when you're doing that thing. Like I think of this show a lot like this, right? I do this show. I absolutely love it. I truly love sitting down and doing this. And I've done a lot of things in my life that I love. I loved skiing. I loved being a personal trainer. But this is the first thing that feels like that thing where I'm just down. Like, I don't care. I'll be sitting in, my house in the middle of the day being like, how can I better cut that segment or like change the audio levels to create a better flow of conversation? Like, it's just like this all the time, all day long.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this. And I would do it tomorrow if no one listened. I would do it if a million people listened. And when you actually start to feel that type of traction in something, it's super special.
Yeah.
And you can't, if in 5 years I'm speaking somewhere about growing, like creating a podcast or show or marketing that, and people are like, how do I get started? Like, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to answer it.
Yeah.
Because it's so like inside of you.
Yeah, it really is though. I think that like anything, it's I've always just followed what felt right, not what like I said, I've chased the money, I've done all that stuff, but when I went after what felt right, it was right. You know what I'm saying? Like when I started cutting hair, I remember like even during the pandemic when I came back after like the couple months that we were off, I remember cutting somebody's hair and I was like, man, I love cutting hair. Like I miss this like so much, and it was just.
What is it about
brings
that?
Joy.
What is it about cutting hair that you find so enthralling?
There's multiple things, I think like the cutting aspect, the creativity aspect of it, of like, say somebody comes to me with a haircut, like when they come to me, they have a haircut already, right? How do I make it better than when they walked in, right? Like, what do I do? What are they willing to do, right? But it's also like you have to have that conversation, that banter with them, right? Of like, are they comfortable with you? Are they gonna have fun?
Like, do they
you?
trust you? Yeah.
Do they trust you? I mean, most of my clients now come to me as people that are recommended or referred or social media or whatever, right? But like the person that comes off the street, can you work with them to make them do what you really want them to do? Like, because at the end of the day, who's the professional, me or you, right? Like I am.
Yeah.
I cut hair all day, so I see what people, what they do, what hair does all the time. But I also look at it too, like this person wants bangs. I don't think you should have bangs. I just don't think that's the right look for you.
Do you do that? Like you give like look-based insights as like, look, well, that's like, okay, so this is why, sorry to interrupt. This is exactly why I go to someone like Jason or Nathan or like Max to get a tattoo.
Yeah.
Because like when Jason did the Clint Eastwood on my leg, I went in there with like, it was like a 2x2 piece of paper.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do this like here, hidden away. And he goes, I don't think it'll look that good. And I'm like, well, in your head, you're like, well, it's my body, it's what I want.
Yeah.
And he goes, hang tight. He goes over to the printer and he comes back with like a 12x6. And he's like, I think this would look good. And I was like, whoa, dude, that's a big tattoo, man. Like, I don't have that many tattoos. And he's like, check this out. He put it on my leg and he's like, go stand by the mirror. And I looked and I remember looking at it and just going like, damn, dude, that's a big fucking tattoo. And I was like, you know what, dude? One, you're cool. You're really talented. And I'm not a tattoo artist. Yeah. I walked in the front doors because I don't know how to fucking tattoo.
Yeah.
You do. And you've seen a ton of bodies. You've put tattoos on a ton of people. It's what you do. And so we did it. And like, it's awesome. Right. And it's because I trusted him. It was like, more than me. Don't come to me for personal training and then tell me how we're going to do the training sessions.
Yeah.
Why? You could just go to Bally's.
Yeah.
Or some shit,
Well, that's the thing. Like I said, it's just, when someone comes to me, it's not about being, because not everybody does what you want them to do, right? Not everybody, like, I have to compromise sometimes. I'm like, I'm down to do that. Okay, like, how about we take off this much instead of that much, or how about we do a face frame instead of your bangs, It could be anything, right? But it's just about, like I said, I think a lot of it is the way you talk to people, the confidence that you have. Like say, for example, if you came to me and I was like, man, I'm really trying to do this. I'm really trying to like build my arms. And you're like, we could try to do curls. I don't know if it's going to work for you. I'm probably not going to do curls. You know what I'm saying? But the same thing with a woman's hair. If I was like, well, I think you would look good with the bangs. I don't really know. Yeah. They would be like, absolutely not. But if I was like, dude, you're going to look amazing with these bangs. I guarantee it.
They need conviction.
Saying? Yeah, and same thing. Like you're like, dude, curls work. Okay, curls work.
I'm glad that of all the training, that's what you've gleaned from it all.
Listen, I still have like there's 3 workouts that I've always stuck with that I've done since we worked out. Right, like
I love it when I get a message from you and I'm like, yes, dude, he's still crushing it. Yeah. I like to ask people this question that are in positions like yourself. Because of the price point of what you do, what do you think people are paying for? Because from an outsider looking in, they go, that's a lot for a haircut.
Yeah.
Right. So they
100%.
think that what the person is paying for is the actual haircut, the physical scissors cutting the hair.
Yeah.
In your eyes, what is someone paying for when they pay for a haircut with you?
The experience. Whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, it's the experience, right? Because I've been doing hair for 14 years, right? Yeah. And I've built my clientele and I've built this business, right? Where I didn't just start, like I said, we all start at zero, right? All of us, right? Especially, in our industries, in the service industry. And so I built my clientele and I started, at zero. I started charging $20, $50, $100. I got on the floor. Then it was like $150 or $175 or something, because that's where they start you pretty much. And I remember my manager being like, man, you're busy. Like, you're booked solid. And I was like, he's like, we're bumping you up. And I'm like, no.
like, whoa, pump the brakes there, chief.
I'm enjoying this clientele of people coming in and coming, And he's like, no, we're going to bump you. So he did. He bumped me up. And my client, like I said, I didn't get to my price by being slow. Right?
With the duration of the haircut.
Yes. Right. Like, no. Not duration of the haircut, with being busy as a clientele. Base,
oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Right. So like, I look at it like this, like for me, it was more about, if I had a solid clientele, right. And I was booked every day, why would I not want to raise my prices? Right.
Right.
And I would, at the time, I wasn't raising old people, like as far as not old people, as far as like old age. I'm talking about like my old clientele that had been with me for a long time.
Right.
Right. And so I would raise the new people. So anybody that was new, they'd get raised, right? And then that's how I worked it for a long time. So a lot of clients for a while like stayed at their same price unless they cheated on me. They cheated, then they got bumped to the new price, right? So
I feel like that, and that's pretty standard. Like,
yeah,
you grandfather in your OG clients, and then anyone new, they take the price hike, and then that happens like down the ladder.
Yeah, and then I mean that's the thing. I think like the price you're paying for is experience. You're paying for demand. You know what I'm saying? Because there are people that will. If there's, I mean, like I said, I'm at 375 now. You know, and I'm still on the daily. Like every day I have a new client or two.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like obviously something's being done right. You know, and I think like it's like you build your brand. It wasn't trying to build a brand. It was more of just like I was just having fun with social media, and I did all this stuff. I made videos and did education, and I've been around the world, and I've done all this stuff, and I built that to where people look at that and go like, man, he's been doing this, you know, and he's good at it.
Yeah, people forget, dude. How long have you been cutting hair for?
Like 14, 15 years.
The more I've talked to people, the more that I've had conversations like this, the more I've thought about my own career, just everything. Shit takes 10 years, dude. It just does. Like, if you are in a creative space, like you want to create a business for yourself, the onslaught of initial excitement is overbearing. You're so hyped when you start something new. Everyone is.
Of course.
The sky's the limit, and I'm going to, whatever it is, right? That shit's gone in like 6 months. Yeah. Then you're faced with like, do you want to actually do this? Do you really care? Do you really want to keep showing up when no one's paying you, when you're not making any money? And then it's like 10 years of making mistakes, doing things wrong, losing clients, finding out what works for you, finding out what doesn't. And over that time period, you develop the confidence that people are looking for when they come to someone for a service and all those things. But it takes time, man.
Yeah.
Time.
It really does. It's what they say, like 10,000 hours to be a master or whatever I think it is.
I think it's true. I really do.
I do too. I mean, that's the thing is experience is way more than anything. You know what I'm saying? I think that like if, for me, like you're paying for the experience, you know, think about like when you first started training, right? Think about like when I first started cutting hair, and I remember a teacher saying to me that like, you know, haircutting might be confusing and might be hard right now, but there's going to be a time where you don't even think about doing the haircut. You just do it.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, damn, that's so crazy. It's so true. And it's like, just think about me if I like came to you and I was like, dude, I just really want to do this kind of workout. And you're like, cool, let's do it like this. You know, It's like not even a thought anymore.
I thought of the other day, I was thinking about this because I was just reflecting on like when I started training, how bad I wanted to do it, right? Like how bad I wanted to be a trainer. And then when I took all the steps and did it, I was like, oh shit, like you're certified. Now you got to do it. Now you got to go and like become one. And then I just remember physically the way that other trainers looked to me when I got there. I was like, whoa, like that guy, they have, 12 clients, or they just know what to do. And I remember thinking, man, what would it be like to run your own training business? It seemed like Mars, straight up. Like that just didn't seem like it was in my world at all. And then to be there, you forget that. And it's important to remember, like, to be so stoked where you are, because there was a point where a former version of yourself was like, dude, be so sick to own your own salon, have an entirely booked out group of people working on branded projects, charging what you want, no one breathing down your back, and you run the show 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole thing. It's funny, I'm buying a house right now in Arizona.
That's insane. Another thing I never thought I'd heard you say. Like, ever. Are you good?
It's crazy because I look at like, I mean, I just remember thinking when I was younger, I was thinking about when I was younger, and I was like, man, like, how am I ever going to make enough money to buy a house? Like I said, it baffled me. I barely... if you look, I think the statistics of people's financial is so crazy. I heard that like I think it's like less
no
than
one buys houses.
No, well, no. It's
No.
that no. Listen to this finance. I heard this, and I don't quote. I'm not saying this is a fact, but I heard this online. I maybe on a podcast, but it was basically saying that 60% of people in the U.S. they have less than $1,000 in their bank account. Okay,
I would believe that 100%.
Okay, this is another trippy one. Less than, I think it's no. So 60% of people in the U.S.
Ballparking here.
We're ballparking.
Yeah,
60.
Hypothetically
Hypothetically here, 60% retired people have less than $25,000 in their bank account. That scares the living shit out of me, you know.
But buying a house is a great investment when you can afford it. Like, I mean, that's
true.
That's a set yourself up for the future kind of thing. What's that feel like? A lot of changes in your life in the last 3 years. Like,
yeah,
you come out of a pandemic and you open up a brick and mortar store. You're insane. Like, talk to me about that.
I honestly I think like I was in a salon that I loved where I was at for so long, and I was at a time where I was just like, I want to work for myself, and I never had this idea or dream of opening anything like that of a salon. And it's not really a salon, it's more of a private studio, you know. And I was there were moments where I just didn't really like where I was at anymore. You know, I wanted something different. I wanted a different experience. And a lot of people were opening salons in their homes and in their, you know, I knew a guy that opened one. He got a house and he used the house as his salon. And I just, you know, at first that's where I kind of went with it. And my downstairs neighbor was getting evicted. I was going to do that. I was going to take over that apartment and turn it into like a little mini salon. And I just thought about it more and more. And I was like, dude, what if we get out of this pandemic or we get out of COVID and it becomes legit again? You know, like I can't do it. That's not legit. So then I started looking for businesses on the street, and you know, I looked for a good minute, like probably 6 months, and I bought 2 mirrors, I bought 2 chairs, and I bought a shampoo bowl before I even had the place.
Why? Okay? Because you got a good deal?
No, because I knew that
because you're insane.
Because yes, basically, I knew that if I didn't buy those things, that I wouldn't do it, because I would back out.
Got you. Like you did it to trigger yourself into keeping going.
Yeah, because I was like, all right, I just spent $15,000 already.
Yeah.
I have to keep going, you know. And I looked for a place. I found a place. I had to wait for 3 months for these people to leave. They didn't leave, and then it was like, oh my God, this is not happening. Now all this stuff that I just bought is sitting in the factories. And they're calling me like, dude, what's going on? We can't hold this stuff for much longer. Like, when are you going to get this stuff? I was dating a girl at the time, and it didn't work out. And I was meditating on it, if I should go back to the girl or not, right? And in meditation, the loudest voice said, no, do not go back. Do not try to pursue that again. Let her go and go after what you were just doing with your career. And I was like, all right. And so I literally came back I flew back from North Carolina from work, because I was in North Carolina. And that week I found my new spot, literally driving down the street.
You found it you weren't like pursuing a realtor to go look at commercial properties. You were just like,
I literally was driving down Robertson.
Yeah.
And I saw a door open, and I went in, and I pulled over, and I went in. The guy was like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, I'm just wanted to look at the place. He's like, oh, sorry, this is already leased out. And I was like, well, can I look at this space? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. And I went in. There was so much stuff that the space had that I needed, that I didn't know that I needed. Like, I was like, oh, wow, this has plumbing already there. This has a water. Like, it had everything I needed. I didn't have to do much. And he's like, but I do have a space down the street.
Oh, so that wasn't the one that you got.
Yeah,
you got a different one. Same dude.
He goes, same dude. He goes, I have a space down the street. It's a little bit less money, and it's a little bit smaller. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'll go look. And like I said, I wasn't like blown away by anything yet until I saw it. And I walked in, and I was like, I called the guy. I'm like, hey, can you meet me down here? I'd love to see it. I walked in with my buddy, and I walked out after I looked at it. And I looked at my buddy, and he looked at me, and he goes, it's it. I could just tell on your face. And I was like, that's it. And like, I got the keys a week later after negotiating everything and signing paperwork. And, you know, I had my crew working within that week. I had it going.
So when you like, I've thought a lot about this from like the training perspective. I would want to do it exactly how you did. I would never want to own a gym. I would want to own a private studio where it's like one-on-one and no, you can't come in until this person's done kind of thing almost.
Yeah, more private.
But the fear is the cost effectiveness of that with rent and everything. So when you started looking at this and you start running you're taking overhead on for the first time ever. Before you're in salons or you're doing stuff privately, but now it's like on you. Was there any part of you that was kind of like, damn, I'm about to sign a lot of money away, one, to get this going, and then two, monthly, and like second guess your ability to maintain your client schedule and all that? Were those voices like...
Oh yeah, every voice was hitting me with it. Like, you're going to fail. No one's going to come with you.
Yeah.
This isn't going to work. You know, are you going to be able to do this by yourself? You know, I mean, there were so many things that were going through my head with it for sure. But I think that like anything, it's just one foot in front of the other. You know what I'm saying? And I just kept going forward with it. I mean, there was a point in building it out where I was like, dude, this is shit. Like, this isn't going to fucking work. Like, the floors look horrible. Like, I couldn't believe how bad it was. And, you know, I figured it out. I figured out the way to fix it, you know, and it's always about figuring it out, you know, and like what's next and how can I get there? And, you know, who can I talk to about it? Like, you know, it's just about networking and reaching out and asking for help. You know, it's not always about just doing it yourself. And, you know, like I said, it worked out. I don't know why. I don't know why it worked out. It's just,
because I had to, dude. It was time. That's why.
Yeah. But it's also too, like, you know, I look at it like for some people, it doesn't work out, you know, and I don't know why that is sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, man, that dude's pipe just blew, you know, like his plumbing is shit. Like, oh man, like the electrical is bad and they have to redo that. Like, I mean, in business, there's always things going wrong. Always. Whether, I mean, it doesn't matter, you know, like I said, we didn't have heat for the first, like, from October to January, we didn't have heat, dude. We had to bring in a Dyson heater to heat up the place. I mean, we had sweaters on, we had jackets on. I mean, dude, it was an ice chest.
Just layering. It's just fashion.
Oh man, it was a nightmare.
You know what though? You know what I think part of this is? I think one, yes, random shit just does happen to people, and it is unfortunate. There's people that, you know, had just opened their businesses, finally got everything together, and COVID hit. There, you know, there's plenty of examples like this. Pipe burst, and it ruins your available funds. You can't continue the project. But I think the bigger problem is people not willing to take a chance on themselves at the right time. And if you think about like your career, you could have done this 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. You could have done this 6 years ago. Like, you probably could have left where you were, put all your money on the table, and opened this place up. But you didn't. You waited until it was the right time for you to do it. Mm-hmm. And you have all the skills, all the clientele, all the understanding of the industry, all the times you said no to brand partnerships that weren't right for you to really set up this thing now that you're doing that is right for you. All of these things happen so that when you walk into that building, you go, this is the one. From that point forward, it's been so time for so long that now it's just like, now you're just putting all the ducks in a row kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, everything happens as it's supposed to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't supposed to happen back then. You know what I'm saying? Because I think about even with the brand, I'm like, man, social media was so much easier back in the day. I was killing it. Like, it was, the algorithm was different. It was like everybody saw your stuff. And now it's like, man, if I just would have done it then, it would have been right. You know, but I'm like, it wasn't right because I wouldn't have had the people that I have involved now with me who are amazing. You know, same thing with my salon. I wouldn't have the people that I have working for me that are amazing. You know, it wasn't the time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it doesn't matter. There is no right or wrong time. You know what I'm saying? It just matters if, like, hey, I'm going to do it, then okay, do it. If people tell you you're an idiot and you're stupid for doing that, fuck them. You know what I'm saying? No one can tell you if it's right or wrong.
And then you'll be hit with one of those, another opportunity where it's like, if it does crash and burn, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to walk away and that's it and you can't handle it? Or is it another feather in the cap and you keep going? And then like you look back on that and be like, yeah, man, dude, I opened this one place and like completely burned alive. And now we're here because I didn't accept that. I just said, no, I'm going to like keep going. Dude, it's like relationships, right? How many horrible relationships have you had before finding the one that you're in right now? And how much healthier and just fucking great is that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I said, it's all experience. You know, you figure out what you want, what you don't want. You know, and it's like that with any aspect of my life, of relationships, business. You know, anything that I've been through. There's no cap on it, right? Like, there's no cap of being like, I'm done with experience, I'm good. Like, you just constantly have new experiences, and it's like, for me, career wise, relationship wise, everything I do is different. It's not the same. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, my relationship with this girl that I'm dating is different than the last relationship I was in. You know, this opening this business is different than when I was working at Chris's. You know, the company that I'm opening and are starting is different than anything else I've ever done. It's all new, you know what I'm saying? And that's, for me, is like, what's cool about it is like, I just love like learning new things and trying new things. And it's you know, it's life. You know, I don't want to stay stagnant.
You're in the middle. It's that middle part. It's the cool part. Yeah. It's the part where you're figuring it out and you're trying new stuff. How did you and your girlfriend, how did you guys meet? Because I only got to see this from like, I mean, you and I trained, you know, we'd spend a lot of the week together. And then when I moved down here, I'd only see like snippets here or there. And then I felt like you actually kind of almost like stopped using social media as much.
I did, yeah. I stopped for a while because it just wasn't there anymore for me. And I met her. I was on a job in San Diego doing a panel.
Great city.
I love San Diego. There was 4 people. She was one of them. 2 of the people, one person I knew, the other 2 I didn't. And one of them was her that I didn't know. I'd never seen her on social media. It wasn't really a thing. I think we had talked maybe once, but I didn't really like remember. It was kind of a thing. It wasn't anything special. It was just kind of like, she just hit me up about something and I answered, and that was it, you know? And then we ended up being on this panel, and the moment we met, because they introduced us, it was like sparks flew. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, when you meet somebody and you instantly have conversation, it's like never a dull moment. It's fun, entertaining, and it can go on for hours, right? Like, you just almost like you just have that connection. Like, you've been friends forever already.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, of course I see her, she's beautiful. And I'm like, wow. Like I said, it wasn't really anything like crazy that happened. And then I just noticed how we were on stage, and she was a colorist. I was a cutter at the time. I was working solo on education stuff. So I was doing my own thing. I used to work with a colorist, so it worked hand in hand. It worked really well together. The classes sold
so that
well.
you guys could then go and do workshops, teach together, stuff like that.
Yeah. So I bombarded her with it, and I said, hey, I'm like, I'm sure I know you're doing classes and doing education, and I think we'd be amazing if we did it together. And she's like, oh my God, all right, yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I think so too. And I was like, cool, when's your next class? And she's like, well, I have one coming up actually in November. I was like, oh, awesome. Like, what, where? And she's like, it's in San Diego. And I'm like, no way, that's rad. I was like, well, how many tickets have you sold? She's like, 50. I'm like, how many are you going to sell? She's like, 100. And I said, cool. I'm going to sell the other 50, and we're going to do it together. And she looked at me and she's like, what the fuck? Like, no, like, let me think about this, you know? And she called me and she goes, all right, I'm down. And we did our first class, and that was the first like introduction to us, right? And I don't think she really, it's funny because when we were on stage doing that panel, like, I don't think she knows like how much I am sometimes. Like, I'm a lot. I can be, especially when I'm doing in education, I don't stop talking, and I like ramble and have fun and like try to do as much, you know, I just want to have as much fun as I possibly can. And I remember her like just telling me like, man, it's so crazy how similar we are, you know, like we are very alike, and it's like, it's so fun with you. And so, yeah, we started teaching, and we traveled. I mean, dude, last year I was on 80 different flights throughout the U.S. We taught 24 classes. I was building out the salon. I was not last year, the year before that. I was building out the salon. I was doing clients, and I was on the road every other week. So it was just like it was hell. It was
you love
crazy.
it though. You love it though.
I loved it. It definitely wore me out. I'll tell you that much. I was definitely. We were both really tired, you know. And there was a trip that we were both on in Nashville. I kind of noticed things were going on with her. I didn't really know what was going on.
Like the vibe was just different.
Like I said, there was nothing inappropriate about it. It was just we were friends, and we got to know each other so well. We became like family, basically, you know. And we talked all throughout the week, and eventually, like it came out with me and her that we both had feelings for each other. As far as like, because I noticed something was up. Like I could tell something was up. I just didn't know what, you know. And I started asking me like, "What are you doing tonight?" And I'm like, "What the fuck? Who the fuck asked that?" Like. You never have asked me that ever in my like time that I've ever hung out, you know, known you. And so, so she, you know, I just said, "What's up with you?" And like, she said basically like, "Nothing. I think we need to talk actually." And I just said, "Okay."
Loaded statement.
Loaded statement. And I told her, I said, "Okay, cool." And I just basically said, "I think I know what it is." And she's like, what is it? And that's when I just basically said, "I think it's like the Johnny and Cash. You know, Johnny Cash and June situation." She's like, "Yep, exactly it." So, but we didn't see each other for a little while either though before it. So it took a while, and the stuff, you know, like it was a weird situation how that all happened, but like it couldn't have been anything better. We went our way. We went in towards each other, and it worked, you know, and it's been amazing. And now we're, you know, like I said, I'm buying a house in Arizona, and it's crazy. You know,
do you want to open up something there too?
No, once this place closes in LA, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't know. I don't know what, you know. Like I said, I never know, to be honest, and I never want to say I know what it's going to happen. I know what I'm going to do. I look at it like I have 4 years left in that place and in that salon, and if that comes to an end, and I'm like I don't want to do this anymore, like I'm done. You know, but. I don't know. I love cutting hair and I love what I do, but at the same time, it's very taxing on your body. You know, I work out a lot. You know, to stay in shape for it, and you know, you got to discipline yourself with, you know, like I do. You know, I do cold plunging now. I do, you know, infrared sauna. You know, health wise, I eat really healthy for the most part. You know, I have my moments where I don't, but for the most part, it's just about like that whole mind, body, soul kind of deal of like taking care of yourself for what you do, because it is physical at the end of the day. You know, it's hard.
And I mean, no matter what you do, you should, right? Like you should care about your body, and doing jobs that are physical where you're standing up and you're moving around all the time and you're carrying and lifting and putting things down and like doing that for sure. But it's also all those things you mentioned. I wish everyone had those as staples in their life, you know, but people don't think about it until it's too late. I do the same thing as you. I mean, you know, we both know it's a fitness and wellness are a big part of our life. It's a huge part of, I know for me, like my mental clarity, just feeling good in general inside of my own head. Fitness is a huge component of that. Massive. Like if I go a couple days, which doesn't happen unless I'm like injured, and I don't have some sort of physical activity or that release, it's like, it's not good, man. It's a really important thing for me.
I agree with you. I'm in the same boat. That's one of the hugest things. I can't stand not doing something physical as far as like working out or like that, you know, just like that thing. If I miss a day of meditation, I'm like, man, this is something's off, you know, like literally, like I don't feel 100, you know, and I think that's the thing is like, we need these things in our lives and have consistency, you know, for the discipline is the hardest part, you know, like I don't want to wake up and, you know, go do that. I don't want to like go do like cold plunge. I don't want to do cold plunging. You know how painful that is, but it is honestly the best thing when I get out of that thing.
All right, we got to chat about this because so I did a podcast with this guy from jiu-jitsu who's in his 50s, and this is 15, 16, 17, 20 days ago. I've been hash marking this. 20 days ago, he was like, you need to start doing cold showers. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not doing a cold shower. He's
Best thing ever.
He's like, just start doing cold showers. Very first things. I wake up at 5 a.m. every day, no matter what, and meditate. Yeah. But I was like, okay, I could try this. So I'm like, I'm going to have to back this up a lot to like something that's manageable for me because I don't have a cold plunge and I'm not going 0 to 60 on this because I know I won't stick with it. So I was like, I think I can get in the shower for 30 seconds on cold water. And 21 days ago, that's what I started with. I just do 30 every day, 5 a.m. I fucking hate it. Yeah. And yesterday and today were the first 2 days at 1 minute. I do it it's the very first thing I do. I wake up, I put on my watch, I get in the shower, and I turn on the cold water, and I wait till the timer hits. And I hate doing it, but dude,
the best thing.
I can't sell it more than I'm trying to sell it right now to people.
Yeah.
There's all the sciencey stuff of like why it's good for you, but there's just something about it. It's like getting yourself to just sack up and do it.
Yeah.
There's something real nice about it, man.
Dude, it's magical. It really, honestly, it really is. Like I was introduced to it by a friend of mine just recently, and he has.
Where do you do it in LA?
Yeah, I mean, there's places, you know, like there's a place called Pause that I've done it at.
Oh yeah.
There's another place called Voda Spa. There's a place in Arizona that I go to called Lifetime. They have them. But I was introduced through a friend of mine at his house, and he had one at his house, and he's like, "Come over and give it a try." He's like, "I have the legit freezer lined with a non-toxic plastic," and I mean, dude, I was like, "All right." He goes, "You are gonna trip out on how good this is for you."
Yeah.
And he's like, he led me through it. He took me into the jacuzzi. He said, "Sit in the jacuzzi for 5 minutes. That last minute you're in there, breathe. Start breathing in and out of your nose." In and out, in and out, in and out. And he's like, and I'm going to tell you, when you get out, you're going to go straight to the plunge and you're going to jump in, and you're not going to hesitate. You're not going to feel the water. You're just going to go in and you're going to continue to breathe.
Yeah.
And I did it. And it was I panicked. I freaked out, and I was like, no way. Oh my God, I can't do this. I sat in there for 3 minutes. Yeah. It was at like 40 degrees, I think it was. And I did it, and I got out. My whole body was red. It was the craziest feeling I'd ever had. He goes, "Jump in the jacuzzi right now." Okay, cool. And then 5 minutes later, jump back into the cold plunge. I mean, I did it like how he wanted me to do it, right?
It's euphoric.
It gives you a feeling, dude, the blood flowing that there's probably parts of my body that blood is not flowing. You know what I'm saying? And now it's flowing because of that. You know? Yeah. I'm actually going to go over there after this, to go to his place to go do it.
It's like now it's now it's a habit, and now I'm just increasing the duration, but now it's a habit. Like getting up, doing that right away, that initial I don't want to, and then bam, you do it, and then standing out of there being like, it's silly, but it's like I overcame that, which is silly because I put the roadblock there in the first place. But then after that, the meditation is very different feeling.
100%.
Afterwards, and then just general, like I'm about my day after that. I go downstairs, make coffee tastes better. It's like everything in that initial hour is just like dialed up to 11, you know.
It's that shock, it wakes you up, you know. And I think that like it's just something. I mean, this is how I look at it too with the cold plunging and cold showers, because I do take cold showers as well, and it's a challenge. It's a mind fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Think about it. When you first, that water first hits you, how cold it is, breathing wise, what do you do when you're breathing? Right? Like, are you right? Or are you and then you get through it quicker? Because now I go into cold plunges. I don't have that freak out anymore. I don't have that moment of like, oh my God, I can't do that. I have moments where I can't do it. I think in my head, like, get out. But I don't have those moments of like where I did in the beginning, you know, because I know that in my head, like it's anxiety wise, stress wise, it helps me so much, because if I stay in, I'm that much less of having stress and anxiety out in the real world with anything that goes on. right? Because I'm breathing through it, right? And that's one of the things of like stress relieving and anxiety relief. I believe it because I do that, and I'm like, man, I can do anything if I can do that. You know,
Totally. Because a bout of anxiety is more gradual than the acute difference between being dry and then being submerged in 40-degree water. That's like 100%. That. So if you can control your breath on that, you can get present, take a step back, whatever, when you feel that welling up or the whatever start to build. So basically, like if you want to be as successful in your career, you just have to do these cold plunges, what you're saying.
Basically. I mean, it's just something different to do, you know, a challenge, you know, and I think a lot of it is like I said, it's just, it's that fear of like, I can't do that. You know, I have a friend that I told to do that as well. I'm like, man, just come with me to cold plunge. He's like, absolutely not. No way. I'm never doing that. But I'm like, cool. Well, you're just not going to, and I keep trying to get him to go, but he's like, I just don't get why you care so much, or like why. And I'm like, cause you don't know the feeling.
Yeah.
That you will get.
No, my buddies give me shit. They're like, no, dude, so shower's sacred time. And I'm like, I can't really, I don't know, like you can't make someone feel how good it will feel. You know what I mean? You know, because you do it. You're going to do it right now. You get it.
Yeah.
How do you, it sounds
that's the thing.
insane.
It's not for everybody though. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not for everybody. Not everyone's going to do it. Not everyone's going to work out. Like we all have the key to success, right? Like it's just laid out. It's not that hard, right? Yeah. Like if I want to feel good, I'm going to eat good. I'm going to work out. I'm going to get rest. I'm going to drink water. Like it's pretty simple of what I have to do to feel good and not have like my anxiety ridden days anymore. Right. Cause like, you know, I'm not drinking coffee and Red Bulls and energy drinks all through the day anymore. Like I don't need all that stuff. Right. Like, but people don't want to let go of these things. They don't want to discipline themselves. They don't want to, like you said, they don't want to get up in the morning and take a cold shower because that doesn't feel good. That feels like, but they don't know any different of feeling like shit to feeling better. You know?
Yeah.
Like they're so used feeling shit is their feeling good. Right?
Yeah.
So like they're just no way. I'm not, that's just too much. I'm not eating like that. Oh yeah, right. That's just too much. Right? Like I'm not doing that. Like I get it, you know.
And you know, dude, because you and I know this from knowing you personally, like you are one of those people that you make yourself do it.
Yeah. You
put your foot down on yourself and you say, no, I'm going to make this happen. There's a lot of days. And I remember like training you, like there's a lot of days where it's not what you want to do, right? Where the beginning of the session is like, I don't want to be here today. End of the session is like, let's tackle the world, right? And so enough times you have felt the benefit of what it can do for you. And so even in those moments of like, I just want to chill like with the dogs and not do this, you are smart enough to know that you can like push yourself onto that other side. And it's unfortunate. A lot of people don't get that experience. They don't get to feel what it's like to feel what good feels like. It's like when all you're in is toxic relationships. You don't know what a good one feels like.
Yeah. 100%.
You only know toxicity and chaos. So that's what you're going to look for and find. And then you end up in a good one. And it's like, you're like, what?
Ready.
When are you going to lie to me? You know, or like,
yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, like I mean, don't get me wrong. There's not a day with working out. Most times with working out or cold plunging or any of that stuff, I don't want to do that stuff. I don't.
And like, cold plunging, it trains that part of you that doesn't want to, but does. It is trained by this shit where you, that mechanism of like, I don't want to pull the faucet towards myself right now. I really don't want to do it. But you do, because you know it's better for you. And that trains that part of your brain.
Yeah, exactly. It's like eating fast food compared to eating just healthier. I would love to eat fast food every day of my life, but it's not beneficial to life.
Well, Dom, I think there's well over 24 mic drops in this episode, so I'm excited to cut this down and get it out. I'm so stoked that you took the time to be here and do this. I had so much fun. I can't believe it's already been 2 hours. That's always the case. That's
crazy.
Right? I feel like we sat down a second ago.
I know.
But man, it's been so good to reconnect and talk, and we'll have to do this again. 1,000%.
Whenever you want, dude. Whenever you want.
Awesome. Well, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no.